This QDS video will start an ACASI survey and then demonstrate how to interrupt and resume data files that either have or have not been renamed. Finally, we'll take a look at how that data is saved in the Warehouse Manager. You may occasionally need to interrupt an interview if the respondent is unable to complete the full survey in one sitting. In ACASI, how you do that depends upon whether or not the keyboard is enabled on your device and what type of device you're using. If the keyboard is enabled as specified in the Design Studio ACASI build options, you can use the Alt F4 keyboard shortcut. If the keyboard is disabled or you're not using a keyboard, you can use your mouse to click the left and right mouse buttons simultaneously in the upper left corner. If you're using a touch tablet and not a mouse, you can press and hold in the upper left corner. Keep in mind that it is very important to never interrupt an ACASI survey in any other way because that could cause your data file to become corrupted. If you need to then resume and complete that survey at a later time, there are different ways to do that depending on whether or not that interview data file has been renamed. If it has not been renamed, it might look something like this, where it's just the name of the control file plus the extension of .qad, which is always the extension for ACASI data files. If the data file has been renamed, it can be renamed manually, or as of QDS version 4.0, it can be renamed automatically if the ACASI build option called Generate Unique Data File for Each Interview is selected under ACASI build options in the Design Studio. If you've selected that option, each interview data file will automatically be renamed. It'll include the control file name, plus the unique identifier. Here in this example on the screen, it was 1122, plus a date and a time stamp. That time stamp includes minutes and seconds, so it always is going to be unique. We're going to demo each of those resume methods in this video. To start our ACASI interview, we're going to first go ahead and find that file name in Windows Explorer, and you will notice that ACASI control files always have an extension of .qsi, and they're of the type QDS self-interview control file. Note that you could also have a desktop shortcut to start from. Once we open the control file, ACASI will open to the first screen, which in this case is an information element. We're going to go ahead and respond to the first couple of items until we reach a point where we want to interrupt this particular survey. Once we get to that point, remember to interrupt an ACASI. You can use Alt F4 if the keyboard is enabled, or if it's not enabled, you can go into that upper left-hand corner and click your left and right mouse buttons, which we're going to go ahead and do right now. QDS will always ask you, are you sure? And if you say yes, ACASI will close. But first, since we have indicated that a password is required, that's an option in ACASI build options. And we'll go ahead and enter the password. And after we click end, ACASI and your interview will close. First, we'll look at how to resume an interview that has not had its data file renamed. You're going to go to QDS 5.0, ACASI Program 5.0, from your Windows Start menu or Apps view of the Start screen, depending on your version of Windows. First, you will see the ACASI Open dialog box. You're going to need to navigate to the appropriate folder where your control file is located. And then next, you're going to want to go to the radio buttons at the bottom of the window and select Resume a Prior Interview. The Begin a New Interview is always selected by default, so you're always going to need to change that. After you've done that, go ahead and click Open. Next, the Pending Interview dialog box opens and it shows a list of any incomplete cases in the current data file. In other words, for ACASI to find your incomplete interview, the data file still needs to be present in the same folder and with the same name as the ACASI control file for this method of resuming an interview. Go ahead and select the interview that you want to resume and click OK. You'll get a notification from ACASI regarding the interview that it's resuming. After you click OK, from this point you can continue and complete your survey. Next, we're going to take a look at how to resume an interview that has been renamed with the Generate Unique Data File for each interview ACASI build option. First, we want to show you how to set that up in the Design Studio. You'll go to the Options menu and then select Build and then select ACASI and then the Operations tab. The Generate Unique Data File for each interview, that is the second from the bottom option. Make sure and check that and then select OK. To resume a data file that has been renamed, the steps are slightly different, but you do start out the same way. As before, you'll go to QDS 5.0, ACASI Program 5.0 from the Windows Start menu or Apps view of the Start screen depending on your version of Windows. Once again, you will see the ACASI Open dialog box, but at this point the process does change. You're going to need to go to the Files of Type box, that's the second drop down, and select the QDS Automated Interview Data Files option. Once you select that, you will see your renamed data file listed in that folder. Once again, you are going to need to select the Resume a Prior Interview radio button. Be sure and select your data file and click Open. Then you are going to get a warning message that indicates that the current folder does not contain a control file with the same name as the selected data file. Click OK in order to find a matching control file. So we will do that and click OK. You'll notice here that in the Files of Type box, you'll automatically see it listed, Matching Control File. You do not need to change anything there. Then you do need to select your matching control file so that it's listed in this file name box, and then you'll select Open. Once again, you'll see the Pending Interviews box where you can select that pending interview and OK. QDS will notify you that it's about to resume the interview with that specific date and time stamp. After you have completed your interrupted interview, then you can go ahead and take a look at the data file and you'll see that it has been automatically updated with the date and time stamp. Next, we will take a look at how the incomplete and resumed interview data look in the Warehouse Manager. With your local warehouse open, go to File, and then Open Source Data File. We're going to select one of the interviews that we interrupted and resumed that used that automatic renaming option and select Open. Once the source data file opens, you'll notice that you have two interviews listed for your interrupted and resumed interview, one marked Resumed Later and the other marked Duplicate Complete. The Resumed Later is the interrupted interview. You can see on the Variables tab that the items that we did not respond to in that incomplete survey are simply empty or blank. And then in the Duplicate Complete interview, you can see that all the responses are there in the file. You can copy both of these interviews over to the local warehouse. But first, QDS will ask you if you want to replace the interview since it's a duplicate. We're going to go ahead and respond no, so that we can have both the incomplete and completed interviews in our local warehouse for documentation. If you prefer, you could choose to only copy the one complete interview to the local warehouse. To mark the incomplete interview deleted before exporting your data, select the Resumed Later interview and then the Delete button. By default, you will be asked for name and initials in the data corrections log. After you've entered your reason, you can go ahead and select OK. And now you can see that that interview is marked as deleted, resumed later, and the other is marked as complete. Alternately, if the interview had never been completed, it would be marked like this in the Warehouse Manager data file and local warehouse. Any data that was never collected will just be blank or empty. You can decide whether or not those cases should be kept for data analysis. To learn more about QDS data files and data management with Warehouse Manager, see QDS Online Help or other QDS Learning videos.